How's it going, boys? Hattrick Line or Carzy here, finally back with another video. And in today's video, I want to tier list the teams for the upcoming 2021-2022 NHL season. It's my first video I've made in a bit, so if you could show your love and support, leave a like, drop a comment, let me know what you want to see. And I just want to see, where I think teams are going to go, what I think they're going to do. Obviously, as you can see my teams here, I have a couple different ones that I think are pretty good. There's going to be one team in the team to beat. I have one team above all else. I have a couple teams in delete your franchise, and then we're going to be trying to fit most of the teams into the top teams, contenders, hopefuls, and non-playoffs. I do think that this season is going to be definitely interesting. We're going back to 82 games this year, so I think there are some teams last year that were abysmal that are actually going to be pretty good this year. I want to rank some teams definitely in spots you might not have seen in other rankings, so I think this is definitely going to be interesting. We're going to be going from worst to best because I want to rank the worst teams first, and I want to wait and make people wait to see, where their team's going to end up, if it's going to be in the top team, if I'm going to have them in hopefuls when you think they're contenders, anything and everything, let me know. We're going to be starting, like I said, though, with Delete Your Franchise, so let's get right into it. We have two teams in Delete Your Franchise, and those are the Buffalo Sabres and the Arizona Coyotes. I am going to put Buffalo behind Arizona, so I have Buffalo at 32 and Arizona at 31. I think both these teams are in, really rough spots. Obviously, Buffalo can't even figure out how to get their captain going. He's not going to play as of right now. He still hasn't got the surgery he wanted. He wants to get one surgery. The team's saying they want him to get another surgery. I doubt he's going to be even able to play for the Olympics this year, so he won't be on Team USA, which is pretty disappointing. I would have loved to see him play for the States. And then obviously Arizona, just an abysmal year there. I think only like 3 or 4 players are returning from last year. Lots of trades, though. They've really made their way back. They've got a lot of draft picks. They, obviously traded their captain and Connor Garland to Vancouver, and a great swap for them. I think the return was definitely worth it. They got a lot of picks for next year and the year after, and especially where they had picks taken away from them due to their previous ways and John Chaka. I think it's definitely a good period coming up for the Coyotes. Give it a couple years. I think their last draft pick, Dylan Guenther, is going to be a great pick for them. He was probably one of the best goal scorers in the draft, so I think that was a great spot. He's looking great in camp. Who knows? I wouldn't even be surprised to see them put him on the opening night roster, to be honest. So those are the only teams I have in Delete Your Franchise. I don't actually want to see these teams deleted, obviously, but actually the Coyotes might be having to move. They are losing their home rink after this year, most likely, so we'll see what happens with that. Anyways, on to the non-playoff teams. So I'm going to have a couple teams here that are in non-playoff, and it's going to be, the teams that I think are going to miss, obviously. So we're going to start off with the Anaheim Ducks. So, Anaheim Ducks, I could have honestly put them in hopeful. I do think that the Ducks are, up and coming. Obviously, Trevor Zegras, one of the best rookies this year to watch. I think he's going to win the Calder. Caulfield's going to have a great year, but I think Zegras is going to win the Calder over him. I just like Zegras' total game more. His compete, obviously Cole Caulfield's going to score a bunch of goals, and I think that is really in the question. If Cole Caulfield does have a 40-goal season, then I think the Calder's his. But Zegras, I could see him having 66 to 70 points this year. Obviously not playing with the most talented, cast around him, but they also have John Gibson in the net, who's one of the best goalies in the NHL. So you really never know with this team. I think they're going to be good definitely in the years to come. But they're one of those couple California teams that I don't see as making the playoffs this year. The next team I'm going to put in here is the Detroit Red Wings. Now, Detroit is looking really good this season, actually, compared to last year. They're going to have some young talent in the lineup. They're going to have guys like Hoopley, Lucas Raymond competing for a spot. Vrana looks great, although he did get injured in camp, so that could be a bit stressful. But obviously the big off-season addition for them was their goaltending and Alex Nedeljkovic. I think he's going to be great. He had a great rookie season. That trade still baffles me, the Carolina trade, especially after the offer sheet for Kotkaniemi. I understand it's all business. Losing out on Dougie Hamilton helped influence that as well. And then obviously, we're not talking about Carolina, though. We're talking about Detroit right now. I think they are going to be good this year. They're going to take a step up, and honestly, I could have also put them in hopefuls, but I have them as a non-playoff team just because I have the hopefuls reserved for teams that were kind of good last year that I don't think are going to be as good this year. That could make it, could not make it. So I have Detroit non-playoff right now, but I'm actually going to put them above the Ducks because I think they're going to have a better season. The next non-playoff team I have is the Columbus Blue Jackets. Now, Columbus, obviously another rough year for them last year. They lose out on Seth Jones, but they do get pieces back, which is great. They don't let him walk to free agency, so they get stuff back. I have a soft spot for Columbus. I really like Columbus. Obviously, now they have one of my favorite players in Patrick Laine, who I think is going to have a good season. A good way to look at Patrick Laine, I think, in my opinion, is you don't know if he's going to score 40. You don't know if he's going to score 20. So why not put him in that 30-goal range? You never know. I'd say for now, unless he, can really regain his form, look at him as a 30-goal scorer. So I think he can do that in a full 82-game season, at least 30 goals. They have a good cast. So I do love their goaltending cast. I do love the goalies they're going into the season with. They have two great goalies in Merzlikins and Korpisalo. Maybe not great, but definitely good goalies, capable to, I'd say, starting goalies in the NHL, at least fringe starting goalies. So that's the one thing they got going for them. Obviously, Zach Werenski is a monster back there, so they have a good defenseman. Maybe not the depth on the blue line they had last year with the departure of Seth Jones, but Adam Bachfist is going to be good, I think, if not this year, then the next. I just look at this team, and I don't think the depth is there. I think they have some good young players, but I don't think that third and fourth line is going to be able to help them compete in the Metro. So I see them as a non-playoff team, but look for them. You never know. Patrick Laine could definitely turn it around. I always believe in that man. It might be one of my biggest faults is believing in Patrick Laine. So we'll see. But for Columbus, I'm going to have them at the bottom of the non-playoff bracket. The next team I have in the non-playoff bracket is the San Jose Sharks. Now, the Sharks obviously were dominant through the early 2010s, 2011, 2012, 2013, like 08, 09. Around that era was the golden era for the Sharks. Now, the last couple of years, they've fallen off, but last year was a real backward step for them. Their blue line isn't getting any younger. Erik Karlsson and Brent Burns. They're lost out on some forwards. They have the whole of Evander Kane ordeal. That's huge. Now, they do have some good young pieces coming up, and I do like the future of the Sharks, but as for right now, they are definitely a non-playoff team. I hear Hertl could be gone either during this season or after the season. Logan Couture is not the player he once was. I still think good, but he also doesn't have much of a supporting cast around him. So I believe right now, the other thing is their goaltending too, Their goaltending is abysmal. I know Aiden Hill is going to be there this year, but I don't know how well he's going to do if he has to start 60-plus games this season. So as for right now, I have San Jose at the bottom of my non-playoff bracket. The next team I have after San Jose is the Ottawa Senators in non-playoff. Now, make no mistake, the Ottawa Senators are a good hockey team. When they get Brady Tkachuk signed, they finished last year at a very good rate. I think they went like 14-8-4 in their final 26 games, something like that. They were good at the end of the year, and they are a good team. They have great players. Obviously, I watched the Jets-Senators preseason game, and that Pinto looks unbelievable. Scored the overtime winner, walked through the entire NHL 3-on-3 line that the Jets had out, and just put on a show to score the overtime winner. Scored in the shootout, I believe, as well. So this kid is legit. Obviously, Brady Tkachuk. They got Josh Norris, Tim Stützle, who could forget about. The future is bright. I'm not sure if Matt Murray is the future goaltender. I don't know if he's just there right now or if they have a plan. They don't have a stud young goaltender. I like Matt Sogard. I don't know if he's an NHL goalie, let's say in 2-3 years, but I definitely like the Senators. I would honestly put them in hopefuls if they weren't in the Atlantic Division. The Atlantic Division is going to be a tough team to make the playoffs in, but I had the Senators in non-playoffs for this year. Easily could have been in hopefuls. I just think their division is a little too tough, that they're going to be outclassed just a bit. But any other division, say they're in the Pacific Division, I honestly think they'd be pressing for a playoff spot. That is my genuine thoughts on that, because I think that division is just so weak. So for the Senators, I'm going to put them right behind. So we're going to be moving on to our hopefuls bracket. I think this is probably going to be the biggest one that we have. I'm going to have a lot of teams in here because I just can't, see myself putting teams at a guaranteed non-playoff. I think obviously the hopefuls bracket is going to be a mix of teams that could make it and teams that couldn't. They're hoping they do. So what a better way to start that off than with the Calgary Flames. Now, Calgary didn't add a whole lot this summer. I think the time is winding down for Johnny Hockey and Sean Monahan's era in Calgary if they can't get things sorted out. I do like the net. I like Jacob Markstrom in the net for them. Their decor, obviously, losing Giordano is big. They have depth on their decor. I just look at their forward group, and I look at guys, and it's obviously past Monahan and Gaudreau. Dubé's good. He torched us in the Jets in the playoff series in the bubble against them, but I just don't know if this team has what it takes, and I know obviously with the Pacific Division, it's wide open. The California teams aren't going to put up much of a fight this season, so I do think that for Calgary, past Vegas being the only guarantee in the Pacific, they could obviously finish in that second or third spot, but that whole division after Vegas is just a bit of a toss-up for me. So I have them in hopefuls, but we will see. My next hopefuls team is going to be the Chicago Blackhawks. Now, Chicago had an interesting offseason. Everyone's harping them for the Seth Jones trade. Obviously, they go out and get Marc-Andre Fleury. But here's the big thing for me is that I think people are giving up a little too early on Seth Jones and the trade. I think Seth Jones is a hell of a hockey player. I was one of his huge fans a couple years ago when he was in, Norris contention. Great young defenseman. I considered him like a top 10 defenseman in the league or whatever. And I know his analytics the last 2 years have been abysmal, but he is still a hell of a hockey player, and people tend to forget that. So I think people are sleeping on the Chicago Blackhawks with that acquisition. Obviously, Patrick Kane's still there. Alex DeBrincat is a hell of a hockey player. I love Kirby Dach. I think he's going to be a 60-point guy this year. The only thing for me is that division is going to be tough, playing teams like Colorado, Winnipeg every night. I know I say Winnipeg. I was trying to think of a team not Winnipeg. St. Louis. It's going to be a grind, and I do think that they're going to be a good team. I do think that they could finish third or fourth, but I just don't know. Last year was such a strange year for the Blackhawks, considering their last 10 years have been such a dominant stretch and run that I just don't know if we're beginning to see the decline of their top players. Taves is also coming back. I should mention that. So we will see, but as for right now, I have Chicago in the hopeful spot. My next hopeful team is the Dallas Stars. Now, obviously, Dallas made it to the Stanley Cup Finals 2 seasons ago. Last year was, once again, a bit of a rough year for them. They got to figure out their goaltending. They have 3 NHL goaltenders, technically 4 in Bishop, Khudobin, Ottinger, and Holtby. So I don't know why they would sign Holtby with all those guys there, but they got to figure that out. They have some good defensemen. John Klingberg, Miro Heiskanen is great. Esa Lindell. I think Heiskanen's one of the top, he's in that bracket of the 6 best young defensemen in the NHL, along with Hughes, Makar, Werenski, guys like that. So I do think that Miro Heiskanen is great, and I do like their forward group. Jamie Benn, obviously overpaid, but still a great power forward if he can get back to producing. Sagan's going to be fully healthy this year. Rupe Hintz is great. I do like what this team can offer. I have them in hopefuls right now because, like I said, that middle range of the Central is going to have Chicago, the Blues, Minnesota's going to be there, and Nashville possibly even. So I have Chicago and Dallas right here in hopefuls. There's going to be a couple other Central teams, but I have them right here. I actually haven't rearranged my hopefuls bracket, so let me do that real quick. I'm going to put Chicago in the front, and I'm going to put Dallas. I'll put Dallas right there, and I'll have Calgary last. Okay, my next hopefuls team is the LA Kings. Now, this one might come as a surprise. The LA Kings obviously could have been non-playoff easily, but these guys have the best prospect pool in the NHL, bar none. It's not even close. And the thing is with that prospect pool is that some of these guys are going to be playing in the NHL this year. So that's going to be scary. Quentin Byfield's going to be in the NHL. Alex Turcotte should be in the NHL. Guys like Rasmus Kupari. Gabe Velarde's already got NHL experience. They just signed Cal Peterson. Drew Doughty is still there, and he is hungry. I recently listened to an interview with him and Elliot Friedman and Jeff Merrick, and he just talks about his one thing pushing him forward is his will to compete and his will to prove people wrong, and his goal is the Olympics this year. So that was just kind of an interesting moment for me, is realizing, man, Drew Doughty is still a heck of a hockey player, and yes, the LA Kings have had some bad years. They still have Kopitar, who is still in top form. I don't think he's dropping off at least this year. So I think the LA Kings are going to push for a playoff spot, specifically in that Pacific Division. I have no doubt in my mind they're going to be right there in the heap of the battle. We're going to see where they can finish, but I really like their chances this year. So I have them in hopeful, moving up from non-playoff, but we will definitely see where they can finish. My next hopeful team is the Nashville Predators. Now, Nashville is just another team. My next hopeful team is the Nashville Predators. Now, Nashville is just another team I can't wrap my head around. Their forward core is still plagued with bad contracts, $8 million for Duchesne and Johansson. We knew there was no way that they were going to lose those to Seattle. I think guys like Yossi and Ekholm are still going to be running the blue line. Obviously, losing Ryan Ellis was huge for them. He's now with Philadelphia. I do like UC Saros in the net. When the Jets played the Predators a couple years ago in the playoffs, we got to see kind of the rise of UC Saros. He got put into Game 7. Pekka Rinne, fastest goalie ever pulled the Game 7, not to humbly brag or anything, but Saros went in and he played great. He's a little small, obviously, but, that just shows how much fight he has to get to the NHL and get his big ticket and become a starting goalie, especially after a guy like Pekka Rinne, who's been there essentially since the beginning of Nashville. He's going to be the heir to Rinne's throne, so it's definitely going to be a pressure season for the Predators. I think UC Saros can handle it. We're going to find out. I have them in the Hopefuls division. Let's see if they can prove me wrong. I'm going to leave them one spot. The New Jersey Devils. We'll talk about them in a sec. The team that I grabbed right here. But the New Jersey Devils. Good additions in the offseason. Great offseason. Dougie Hamilton was a great signing. One of the best offensive defensemen in the NHL. Mackenzie Blackwood is a good NHL goaltender. I think he's going to be have a good season. I think he's going to be, if he has a good start, he's going to be in the fight to make Team Canada either as like the second or third string. So he'll be right there. Jack Hughes in for a big year this year. I'm telling you guys, draft him in your pools. He's going to look good. Guys like Holtz could crack the lineup. We don't know. PK Subban is still there. So for New Jersey, once again, tough Metro division. Lots of teams that are going to be in that fight. So I have New Jersey as a hopeful, but I think... So my next hopeful team is going to be the New York Rangers. Now, I am going to have them at the top of hopeful because I do... Okay, yep. So I do think the New York Rangers are a heck of a hockey team. Obviously, a great young goalie, Igor Shesterkin. A couple top picks last couple years, Capo Caco and Alexei Lafreniere, alongside guys like Artemi Panarin, Mika Zibanejad, Jacob Trouba on defense. Can't forget Adam Fox, just won a James Norris. So I do think that the Rangers are a good hockey team. Now, the thing with the Rangers is there's just something about them that I can't wrap my finger around where it just seems like it's not working sometimes. They have all the power in the world to be a great hockey team. They have the players. They have the setting. Madison Square Garden is going to be packed this year. The pressure is going to be on because I know their fans are ready. They've come out and said the rebuild is over. It's just something about the Rangers that I don't know, man. There's just something. It's either there's something missing or it's just like, I don't know. But they just can't seem like last year we all thought they were going to take a giant step forward again. And here they are. We're talking about them as a hopeful for this upcoming year. So I don't know. I was one of the many people who thought they were going to make the playoffs last year. So right now I have them in hopefuls. Could be a contender for sure. But that Metro, once again, is just going to be tough. So right now I have them in hopefuls. The next team in the hopefuls, once again, another one that could surprise, I think, is the Pittsburgh Penguins. Now, hear me out here. I love Sidney Crosby not as much as the next guy. He's a local guy from where I am. Love the Penguins, but he's going to be hurt for a bit to start the season, and so is Evgeny Malkin. So they're going to be missing their two best players. I don't necessarily trust Tristan Jarry as the starting goaltender. I don't think he is the future. Now, obviously, he can turn things around. I know he had a bad year. Goalies can have bad years. I look at Tristan Jarry, and I feel like the team, the organization, and the fans are just about ready to give up on him if he has a rough start in the first, 15, 20 games. And it's not going to be easy with their two top guys out of the lineup. So I look at this team. They're in the pressure cooker. They could have a rough start and all of a sudden be in the non-playoff bracket without those guys. Then, obviously, Gino and Sid can come back and lift them up out. Chris Letang still got a lot in the tank. I love John Marino. Brian Rust is good. One of my favorite random players from last year was Radim Zahorna, who came and scored 4 points in his first 8 games, scored 2 goals. So There is a lot to like about Pittsburgh. I do like Pittsburgh as a team, but I think missing those two big guns at the beginning of the season is going to hurt them, and I think they could all of a sudden find themselves at like a 2-7 record or something like that. I would not be surprised. The next team I have in my hopeful bracket is the Vancouver Canucks. So I'm going to go ahead and place the Canucks probably right above Calgary. I'm going to place them above. This is tough. Let me place them right behind Chicago, and here's my reasoning for that is Demko, great goaltender. Quinn Hughes, not signed, great defenseman, at least offensively. I know maybe not the best defensive defenseman, but he can put up a massive amount of points. Pettersson, their top center, not signed, great hockey player. Here's the thing, is that Vancouver is missing their best forward and their best defenseman as of right now, both not signed. If that gets dragged out any longer, say start of the season they're still not signed, they are going to struggle. Now, I still like Vancouver. I like JT Miller. Brock Besser is a good goal scorer. A lot of rough contracts. They got Ekman Larson, and they got Connor Garland now to kind of help out offensively and on the blue line. I look at this team, and I think without those two guys signed, they're going to miss their identity. Now, in the Pacific Division, they're going to score a lot of goals if these two guys are there. The Pacific Division is not going to be the best defensively, so I think it's going to be a high-scoring division. These guys can score a lot of goals, I think, with their full lineup. But it's just going to be whether or not they get those guys ready for opening night. Because you wait a little bit, maybe they're signed 2 weeks into the season, maybe they're signed on the final day. You're going to see what happened to William Nylander a couple years ago. They're going to fall off. So it's going to be a close one, but I think Vancouver can be a playoff team. Like I've said before a million times in this video already, the Pacific is not going to be a strong division by any means. So they have a chance, but are those guys going to be ready to go? The next team I have in my hopeful is the Seattle Kraken. Now, Seattle could have been in non-playoff, sure, but like I just said for Vancouver, the Pacific Division is wide open past Vegas. I think Edmonton is going to occupy one of the top two spots, one of the 2 to 3 spot. But other than that, I think there's that third spot is wide open. So I have Seattle in as a hopeful. If they can win some hockey games, yes, they might not be able to. Their offense is not really there. They have some big defensemen, but if they can win some 2-1 or 3-2 hockey games, I think they can be right there. I think they can be at least a 500 team. But with that weak division, say they win like 8 of their games, not 8 of their games, because I was thinking about last year. Say they win their season series against Anaheim. Say they win their season series against San Jose. Say they win their season series against Calgary. Then all of a sudden you're looking at a lot of wins piling up. And say they take one from each Eastern Conference team. That's like a 40-win season right there. So I think Seattle definitely could make it. I'm going to rank them at the back of hopefuls because they do have a lesser roster than most teams, but you never know in that Pacific Division. The last team I'm going to rank in the hopefuls, and I hope I don't get burned at the stake, and no, I'm not being petty because they eliminated my team last year. I'm going to put the Montreal Canadiens. So, Montreal, it's the division for me. It is the Tampa at 1. It is the Florida, Boston, and Toronto at 2, 3, and 4. I don't see Montreal being better than any of these teams. Now, I know this team thrives when being counted out, so maybe I'm blessing them. But I look at that division. I look at Montreal not finishing in the top 4 at 5, and that is best case a final wildcard team. So do I look at a team I think is going to finish 5th in their division as a contender? No, I don't. So that's why I have them at the top of hopefuls. But Cole Caulfield could score 40 in his rookie year, possibly 30, at least maybe 30. 40 is a high, but you never know. Shea Weber's going to miss the year. Carey Price, is he going to be ready for opening night? Jonathan Drouin is back. These guys have some of the best wing depth. Obviously, center being a weak position with Dvorak filling that 2C now, Suzuki 1. I love this team's wingers. I think this team's wingers, like the set of wingers like Gallagher, Anderson, Drouin, Caulfield, Toffoli, Hoffman, that is an elite top 6 wingers and top 9 wingers. I think these guys are going to be a good hockey team this year. Do I think they're going to be a non-playoff team? I wouldn't put them in non-playoff team, but I can't put them in contenders thinking 5th in their division. Boston Bruins. Boston is a contender this year. They are, I wouldn't say as strong as they've ever been. Tuukka Rask's future is still kind of up in the air, but I do think the Bruins are still going to be a good hockey team. They're always right there. These guys haven't had a bad season in a while. They're going to be a playoff team again this year. They're going to, pummel some teams in the Atlantic, I think, physically, and these guys can score. They have good defense in Charlie McAvoy and a couple other guys, and offensively, Brad Marchand, Pasta, Bergeron. No Krejci this year, so DeBrusk is going to have to step up, but there's still a lot to like about this team. I have them in contenders, and we're going to see if they can take another run in the Atlantic. I wouldn't be surprised if they finish second in the Atlantic behind Tampa. I don't think anyone's dethroning Tampa. Obviously, there are a couple other teams that could finish in that second spot, but I really like Boston this year. Our next team in the contenders is Carolina. So Carolina, once again, great hockey team from top to bottom. A very interesting offseason for these guys. Questionable decision-making for sure. I'm not an NHL GM. I'm not in control of an NHL team. I don't know what it's like to be in control of an NHL team. But you got to wonder, after losing out on Hamilton, after trading essentially their young starting goalie, who was a Calder finalist for little to nothing. A third-round pick is still valuable, but... And then, on top of all that, the offer sheet to Kotkaniemi. So, I do think that was a smart move. I think Kotkaniemi is going to be... People are saying, oh, they're paying $6 million for 10 goals. Kotkaniemi is not going to be the same player as he was last year, and certainly in 3 years, he's not going to be the same player. Now, if they do the strategy where they sign him long-term on an extension, then they don't have to pay more than that $6 million. I believe my understanding is that if they give him a contract extension, they don't have to go up above that $6 million. Now, he doesn't have to sign an extension, so he could make that $6 million for the entire year, and then at the end of the year, he'll have to make more. But I believe if he does an extension, say 6 years, he could be in that $5 million range, which would be a great contract. I think is going to be value-wise. I'm a big believer in Kotkaniemi. I look at what he does in the playoffs, and I think it's right there. It's just about putting that game together. And where he's 21 years old, I think people, obviously, they're trying to put on a smile, Montreal fans, but they're gritting through their teeth. They just lost the guy they drafted 3rd overall a couple years ago. I think he's going to be a heck of a hockey player. He's going to fit in with Aho and Teravainen and that Finnish identity. They got Ranta in the net now, so I think that Carolina... Here's the thing about Carolina is you asked me this question last year, where would I have put them this year? I was hoping to put them in the top teams, but they keep failing to take that next step. I love everything they have here. I love their coaching staff. Rob Brindamore is a great coach. So wouldn't be surprised if they were the best of the best this season. I wouldn't be surprised if they go to the Stanley Cup finals even, maybe. Like, they're a good hockey team. They're that good. Jacob Slavin is one of the best defensemen in the NHL. But it's just about, can they take that next step? Are they there yet? I don't know. That is a rough off season as well. I believe in the Carolina Hurricanes, but we will see. I have them at the top of contenders for now. Next up, the Edmonton Oilers. We're going to talk about, well, I could say one guy, but it's essentially two, and Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. Those guys alone propel them. I would almost say you want to put them up here with that kind of a player 1 and 2. But then you just look at the rest of it. You look at their offseason, and it's like, we can see why they're down here. Zach Hyman was a great signing. That's a great fit. Term and length, maybe not, but you gotta pay now so you can have him this year. He could be the missing piece. I like Puljujarvi. Tyson Barrie, for as much flack as he gets defensively, there's only one guy who can lead the NHL in points by defenseman. Last year was him. Now, obviously, playing with you can say that for about everyone on the team. Playing with McDavid, playing with Draisaitl, but he did it, and they didn't have to pay him a heck of a lot of money to re-sign, so that's good. So they're gonna be scoring goals. They're gonna be running up the score. It's if they get into, say, a first-round matchup against Vegas, or if they get into a second-round matchup against Vegas, will they falter? This team is interesting. I watched them play in the playoffs last year. The Jets were not the favorites to win the series. The Jets ran all over them. It wasn't as it was a sweep, but it wasn't as much a sweep as you want to look at it. It was 3 overtime wins for the Jets, but this team was struggling to find itself, and you just hear so much about these guys, but when they go silent, this team has no shot in hell of winning a hockey game. So, bottom of contenders for me, McDavid and Draisaitl. Expect another monster year from them in the weak division that they're in. Look for them to be a playoff team, most likely behind Vegas in the Pacific Division, but once they get there, it's a bit of a toss-up. My next contenders team, the Florida Panthers. I have them at the top of contenders. There is a lot to like about the Florida Panthers. Goaltending situation is a bit weird. The guy they're paying $10 million is their backup this year, I'd say. Maybe not to start, but eventually at one point he's going to be their backup, and their guy on the minor league rookie contract is going to be the starting goaltender. Spencer Knight is the goalie of the future in Florida. I think the thing, unfortunately, with him is that he came a little quicker than expected. They signed Bobrovsky to that monster deal at like 7 or 8 years, thinking Knight's going to be ready in year 3 or 4 because goaltenders take a little while, but he's already here. Spencer Knight is here at the end of the second year of Bobrovsky contract, so that might handicap them. Barkov is a mystery. I do think he'll re-sign in Florida, but who knows? Huberdeau is one of the best wingers in the NHL, at least a top 10 winger for me. Guy is skilled beyond belief. Great fit for Barkov. Defensively, Ekblad, Weegar is a great defenseman. There is a lot to like about this team. They have depth. Joe Thornton is there now, so he'll be controlling all the young guys. I love this team on paper, and it's, last 2 years, like, it's just when the playoffs come, they just kind of turn off. Now, last year, you can't really blame them. They were playing the Tampa Bay Lightning, and they did do decently well against the Tampa Bay Lightning, but do they have the edge? Can they take out a team like Tampa Bay? If they go up in the playoffs against Boston, how are they going to do against Boston? Because I think Boston will be the same thing. I think they're going to have to get over that hump. Yes, they are a contender. Yes, they're a good team, but can they get over that hump? Can they beat a team in the playoffs? Can they go on to the second round? If they go on to the second round, they can go all the way on to the finals. But they need to get over that hump, and that's going to be the biggest thing for Florida. All right, so the next team that we have up in the contenders, the Minnesota Wild. A week ago, I would have put them in hopefuls, but Kirill changes the entire identity of that team. This guy is a monster. He can score 80 this year at least, I think, playing with Zuccarello and Eriksson Ek. Eriksson Ek is great. I've always loved Eriksson Ek, but he's developed into a defensive monster that I did not see him developing into. The blue line looks good. Dumba looks good. Capo Kakinen, is he going to be a true NHL starting goalie? I think last year we saw shades of him being a NHL goalie full-time. I do like his game. I do think he's a good goaltender, and I think he's the future there as for right now. Marco Rossi, is he going to make the team? I love what he has, obviously missing the whole year due to COVID, but he's one heck of a prospect. He's at least the top 5 prospect in my mind at the end of that list. Could be a dark horse for Rookie of the Year. Say he gets going with Kaprizov. That would be a scary combination. Jordan Greenway's there too, who is unbelievable. So I have Minnesota at the back of contenders. I do think they're going to be a playoff team this year unless something happens. There are a couple teams in the Central I have ranked ahead of them, so maybe third in the Central, a wild card team. I think them and the Blues are going to be competing this year for a spot, and most likely Winnipeg. I think I'm just, being a little too biased, but definitely a good team. Like what they got, and they're going to be a good squad this year to watch, especially with Kirill getting a full 82-game season, so we'll see what happens with the Wild. Next on my contenders list, I have the Philadelphia Flyers. I'm going to spot them in a little bit ahead of the Oilers, but behind Boston. So Philly, they need a bounce-back year. Carter Hart is going to be a monster this year. I'm telling you right now, you pissed off this young stud goaltender who, yes, he might have come in a little early, and he's allowed to have a bad year, but this year, Carter Hart, I'm telling you, is going to be a Vezina finalist. I hope these words don't come back to bite me. But I like what Philly did. The Ristolainen trade, they bit of an overpay, but they get Ryan Ellis, so they shore up that blue line terrifically. Claude Giroux is still an elite NHL player. He should still be close to point per game. Sean Couturier, obviously one of the best two-way forwards in the game. Cody Glass is there now, so that's some young talent they're going to add. I like Joel Farabee as well, Scott Laughton. So this is a good hockey team. the Philadelphia Flyers are going to be a team to watch out for this year. They could be at the top teams by the end of the year. They could have surpassed everyone in Contenders right now, and I would not be surprised. Like, they could be the best team that I've ranked so far at the end of the season. I would not be surprised if they finished ahead of every single team on this list. So, Philly, I have them in Contenders. I have them in the 4th spot right now, but look out for them this year. It's just a matter of time before they start to turn things on and start clicking again. St. Louis Blues are the next team. I'm going to slot them in ahead of the Oilers. I do like their ads this year. They got to figure out what's going on with Vladimir Tarasenko. They are still a good hockey team. They lost, obviously, their captain a couple of seasons ago, but they still got Justin Falk there. They still got some other good defensemen, Colton Parayko. I do like their forward group. There's just a lot to like about the Blues. Now, Binnington, is he a true elite goalie? Obviously, what we seen a couple years ago. First rookie to win all 16 playoff games. A great goaltender, but is he going to be able to, last couple of years have been kind of iffy for Jordan Binnington. Is he going to be able to turn things around? I think he has the credentials to do so, and I think he can help propel this Blues team to 2nd or 3rd in the Central. We're going to find out. I do like the Blues, though. I have them as contenders. I think them and the Wild and, let's say the Jets are going to be battling for supremacy behind Colorado in that Central, so we're going to see where they finish, but I do like the Blues' chances of being a good team this year. Next on my contenders list is the Toronto Maple Leafs. So Toronto, I can't put too much disrespect on these guys' name. I'm going to put them above Philly for now. So Toronto, I can't really say much about the Leafs because most of you watching this video are going to know exactly what I'm going to say. Toronto Maple Leafs are a good hockey team. They have great players. John Tavares, Mitch Marner, Austin Matthews, who's most likely going to win the Rocket this year. They have some good defensemen, Morgan Riley, TJ Brody, Jake Muzzin. Goaltending, we're going to see if Jack Campbell's ready to be an NHL starter. I think people are putting a little bit too much belief in him being able to play 60. So we're going to see what happens there. I think people are, they're jumping a little bit too quick on the Jack Campbell bandwagon. But you got to remember, he was a good prospect a couple years ago. Devin Dubnyk was given up on for a bit and then came out of nowhere and had some great years with Minnesota. So I think Jack Campbell can be the same way. It might just, he's a little younger than Dubnyk, obviously. I'm not sure what Dubnyk's age was at the time that he kind of came back to relevancy, but I think Jack Campbell can be like that. I don't see him as a Vezina-winning defenseman. I don't see him as a Vezina-winning goalie, but you never know. The Maple Leafs, though, it's going to be tough. They are in a hard division. I have 3 teams ahead of them. So they're going to finish, in my mind, 4th. Obviously, could finish ahead of Florida, could finish ahead of Boston, but finish in that 2 or 3 spot. But I have them at 4, and if the Metro, say, has 5 wildcard teams, then that's it. Then the Leafs are done. They're going to miss the playoffs. I don't think the Leafs care where they finish. I don't think the Leafs need 50 wins. As long as they can get to the playoffs, they can get a good matchup. I think if anything, it's matchup. It's going to be, if the Leafs can play the Florida Panthers, let's say Florida finishes 2nd and the Leafs finish 3rd in the division, Boston finishes 4th, something like that, that is a great matchup for them. I do like the Leafs in a series against Florida. Do I like the Leafs in a series against Tampa or Boston? No. So, for the Leafs, it's about matchups this year. It's about consistency in the regular season. Where are they going to finish? I'm not sure. Could they miss the playoffs? Possibly. But they are still a good hockey team. I am excited for that the docu-series on Amazon. So, to see what Joe Thornton was yelling at Nick Ehlers. I'm excited for that. But, yes, so Toronto, I have in Contenders right now in the middle of the pack. As for right now, we will see. But you never know with this team. It's always something with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Next team I have ranked in Contenders, the Washington Capitals. I think Washington is, they're kind of like Boston the last couple of years. They're always right there. They're always having a good season, but I just look at a team like Washington and I think their time is running out soon. Nick Backstrom and Ovi are still there, and yes, they're still going to dominate this year. Kuznetsov is not the player he once was. His future is up in the air. John Carlson is good, obviously, but I don't think he's going to win another Norris. You could mark me wrong. And the goaltending, it's Ilya Samsonov, but is he ready to play 60 games this season? Is he going to be able to have, say, a 30-win season, 35-win season? If he has a mediocre year, then I don't know what's going on, because behind John Carlson, I'm not sure, and Dmitry Orlov, I'd say, I'm not sure what's going on with the blue line. Offensively, it's going to be a depth thing. It's going to be the third and fourth line for Washington. I have them taking a bit of a step back this year. I still have them as a playoff team, but I have them taking a bit of a step back this year, and this could be the same thing that's happening with Pittsburgh, where now Pittsburgh is not considered as an automatic contender. I have them in the hopeful. I think Washington's going to be there soon. Say if Ovi and Backstrom start happening. I do think Ovi can break the goal record, and I do think he will do it. It's just a matter of how much longer is Washington's window open, and are the young guys they brought in able to keep that window going. The last team I have for the Contenders is your Winnipeg Jets. Now, I don't want to be too biased with this ranking, but I absolutely love what the Jets did this offseason, bringing in two defensive players, and Brendan Dillon and Nate Schmidt. Obviously, Schmidt's more of an offensively minded puck mover. Dillon's that stay-at-home who's going to be a great addition to the top four. That's the only thing we needed was defense. I think we have a great top six. I think now defensively we're going to be able to compete. We have a Vezina winning goalie in the net. I've already talked about the top six, but the top six, like I said, still one of the best in the league when you look at it pound for pound, stat for stat. So I don't want to be too biased with Winnipeg. I will put them... okay. I will put them right behind Toronto. I'd like to think they're a little bit better than Toronto, but I mean, they didn't make it farther than Toronto, but they arguably had a worse showing to a team. Toronto had a better showing against the playoffs. So I'll put them right there. I'll put them ahead of Philly, because Philly didn't make the playoffs last year. I'll put the Jets smack dab in Contenders. I think we can finish second in the Central this year behind Colorado. I think we can put up a good fight against Colorado if our top guys really do get flight. If Scheifele, Connor, Wheeler, Ehlers, Dubois, Stasny, and Kopp, and then Adam Lowry, we have some... I don't think Cole Perfetti's playing this year. Guys like if Christian Vesalainen can get it on. Like I said, Morrissey and Pionk and DeMello just got Schmidt and Dillon to their decor, and we have a Vezina winning goalie. Eric Comrie is a bit of a question mark in the backup position. Not sure how he's going to be able to perform, but I do like the Jets' chances of being a good, competitive hockey team this year. And I think this is the best lineup the Jets have ever had going into a regular season. So put the Jets as a contender. I see them making the playoffs. Let's see where they can go. All right, boys. Well, we are into the final four teams. I've been recording for about 47 minutes, so let's get this wrapped up here, shall we? The first team in the top teams, the Colorado Avalanche. There's a lot to like about the Avalanche. They're a sick hockey team. Arguably a better goalie this year. I know a lot of people might say what, but Darcy Kemper is a hell of a goaltender. He was behind a very piss-poor team last year in this delete your franchise team, and now he's with a top team. So not only did he have a decent year last year, but he's going from one of the worst teams to one of the best. That is a recipe for success. Philip Grubauer is now gone, signed with Seattle. Colorado was able to re-sign Gabriel Landeskog. That was huge for them. They're going to have that top line reunited. The depth on forward is a bit concerning. They lost a couple guys. Nazem Kadri is the second-line center. I think Nazem Kadri is a good second-line center, but is he a second-line center on a Stanley Cup championship team? Is he a 60, 70-point guy? Is he going to be able to shore up? Because looking at the lineups right now, if they have McKinnon, Rantanen, and Landeskog on that first line, Burakovsky, Kadri, and Nichushkin is a mess second line, I'd argue. Now, advanced stats are advanced stats, but when I look at that second line, I don't think that's the second line on a Stanley Cup winning team. They don't have a true stud on that second line. Now, Kadri obviously is a great hockey player. I don't just look at him as a superstar, though. Most teams need to have that superstar on the second line so they can compete down the lineup. I don't see Colorado having that. Now, defensively, Colorado is one of the best teams in the NHL. Like I said, I mentioned Kemper, but Cale Makar, that almost makes up for not having the superstar second line, because Cale Makar is the best offensive defenseman in the NHL. I think he has the keys to become the best defenseman in the NHL, regarded as. He's going to win a Norris, if not this year, then the next year, or the next year. He's going to win a Norris in the next 3 years, maybe even 2, maybe even 3. Bowen Byram, can he take the next step? Not sure. I do like his chances. My brother actually is an Avalanche fan, and he is almost, when I talk about Bowen Byram, it almost seems like he's given up on him. He missed a lot of time last year, but Devin Taves is going to be hurt to start the season. They do have Pavel Francouz back as a goaltender for their backup position. He was great in his first year, missed all of last year. Eric Johnson is going to be healthy this year, so it's a bit of a reset. Obviously won the first 6 straight playoff games, and lost 4 straight to go to Vegas. I do like the Avs' chance. They're going to win the Central this year. It's almost a guarantee for me, and we're going to see what they can do in the playoffs, but I do like their chances at making it to the 3rd round this year, even maybe Stanley Cup Finals. Next team in the top teams, the Islanders. Now this one, I was torn. I didn't know if I wanted to have a team to beat, 2 teams in the top teams, and then have the Islanders at the top of the Contenders. But it made sense looking at it to have a team from each division in the top 4 rankings. So the Islanders are going to be in the top teams. Their systems are second to none. The system that they play in, the system that Barry Trotz has them in, the type of players. It's almost like a. I don't know if anyone watching this video has ever played GM mode in NHL in the last couple of years. How if you get that coach, he likes his certain players, you can get +5s and +3s on the power play. The New York Islanders are running at like +5s across the board, with like +5s on the power play, +5s on the penalty kill. Like these guys, their systems are unmatched. Lou Lamoriello and Barry Trotz are the perfect combination, and the pairing of players and the signing of guys that fit their systems is unmatched. So this team is going to have a fun time toying around with other teams in the Metro this year. It's just, how far can these systems go? Because yes, having a system in place like this and having the systems that are able to just systematically tear down teams is great, but is it something that wins you a Stanley Cup championship? For me, it's a tough one, because I look at the Tampa Bay Lightning and I look at the New York Islanders, and I do think the Tampa Bay Lightning are ahead of the Islanders in terms of how they can actually play each other. They went to 7 last year, but I think the reason Tampa wins that 7-game series is because they focus on playing the best players possible, whereas the Islanders are a systematic hockey team. Obviously, it goes to show you that a team that just plays the systems with maybe not the best players. I mean, the Islanders obviously have some great players, but they have Matt Barzal as a superstar, and I'd say Tampa has like 3 guys that are at least equal or better than Matt Barzal on their forward group. But it goes to show that in the right systems, you can take a team like Tampa and go to 7. Now, Tampa won that game. I think that goes to show you that you want to just try and get the best players possible sometimes. But if you can get, say, Tampa Bay's lineup in a New York Islanders type system, that's a dynasty. That's how dynasties are created. That's how the Chicago Blackhawks, the Pittsburgh Penguins, winning multiple cups in a row in different seasons. So I think that's how that's created. But Islanders, in my opinion, going to win the Metro. Great hockey team. We're going to see what they can do. I like their chances. Let's see what they can do. The final team I have in the top teams ranking, the Vegas Golden Knights. I'm going to put them in the middle. I'm going to put Colorado ahead of them. And yes, I know Vegas beat them in the playoffs, but Vegas is going to have a lot less goaltending to rely on now. They don't have two true number ones. They have Robin Leonard, and they have the Jets goaltender from last year, our backup, Laurent Brossoit. Forward group still great. Mark Stone, one of the best I was about to say defenseman, but I could just have said defensive forwards in the NHL. Mark Stone is still there. William Karlsson is still there. Max Pacioretty. They are going to be able to score on teams defensively. Pietrangelo and Theodore together. Oh my God. Their defense is still great. Robin Leonard is a great goaltender. It's just Vegas, it seems, ever since their first season, has, despite getting better, has taken steps back in the playoffs, and I know that can change in a dime. They can just go and win it all this year. And I would say out of any team that hasn't won a cup yet, Vegas is the next team that's going to win it. I can see them winning a Stanley Cup in the next 3 years, but will they be able to do it? Will they be able to get back to the 3rd round? Will they be able to get to the Stanley Cup Finals in a series against the Avalanche? Will they win again? And can they, like, Montreal, it was such a good matchup for Vegas. And it blows my mind seeing what Montreal did to the Jets and then what Vegas couldn't do. I don't know, man. But I do like Vegas. I do think they're the next team without a cup to win. I do think they're going to be a serious threat this year. They are alone in my mind because look where I rank the Oilers. The Oilers are the next specific team that I rank. I rank them towards the bottom of contenders. The Vegas Golden Knights have maybe the easiest route to the playoffs this year of any team. They're the only team in the Pacific that I can guarantee will make the playoffs. So, Golden Knights, middle of the top teams, great hockey team. We're going to see them dominate again this year, but can they get over that hump? The final team. Tampa Bay, delete your franchise. Actually, no, I'm just joking. You're hopeful between the Tampa Bay Lightning are the team to beat this year. They are going for a three-peat. I don't think a three-peat has happened since the 1980s. I want to say with the Islanders dynasty, maybe even the Oilers. I'm not a hockey historian expert. I don't know which happened first. I think it would have been the Oilers and then the Islanders, but correct me if I'm wrong. Anyways, they're going for the three-peat. They're going for 3 in a row. And yes, they did lose out on Goudreau and Gord, and they're going to be a bit weaker for that. But then again, those guys were third liners. They still have their top 6. And I know no team wins without a good third line, but they still have their top 6 intact. They still have their elite D-core, Hedman and Sergachev. They still have Andre Vasilevsky, who gives them a chance to win every night. You heard what Kucherov said after the playoffs. He is their MVP, and I believe that. And that's pretty crazy considering they have guys like Nikita Kucherov, Victor Hedman, Steven Stamkos, Braden Point, just off the top of my head. So that's 5 guys right there that are upper echelon players in the NHL. Tampa is the team to beat, bar none this year. They have a great chance to three-peat. I think about it, and I don't know if any of the teams on my screen beat Tampa in a 7-game series. So they have a great shot this year. We will see how they can do going for the three-peat. And that is my rankings of the teams. Holy moly, I thought this video was going to be like 20 minutes long. I have been recording for 56 minutes, so I'm going to wrap it up here, guys. I appreciate you watching. Thank you for clicking on the video. I'm hoping to get back to more consistency with these videos and uploading a little more often. So, like I said, like, comment. Let me know what you want to see down low. I'm thinking about doing a couple different things. I still want to do my final review of the Laine Dubois trade. I want to do a fantasy draft where I kind of live stream the draft and have people pick my players for me, and we all create a team together. We come with the name, just a random league. I think that would be hilarious. I think that'd be really funny. So I want to do something like that. So anyways, like, comment, let me know anything you want to see from me. I'm looking at all comments. I will consider literally anything hockey related. So thanks for watching, boys, and take care.